Yeah, good afternoon, all of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
So we need to go into the new chapter today, that is ITC, Input Tax Credit. So without wasting much of our time, I will straight away go into the topic. So chapter 6, Input Tax Credit. Now, as you already know that this study material contains the law updated up to 31st October 2020, but for your examination, law amended up to 30th April 2021. Law standing as on 30th April 2021 will be applicable for your December examinations. Okay, November or December examination, law as applicable as on 30th April 2021 will be applicable. So what are all the amendments from 1/11/2020 to 31/3/34/2021 will be given in statutory update. statutory update. In statutory update, the details will be given. Okay. And also at the end of the lesson, we may be having the amendments, and we also need to examine whether that amendment has been made applicable or not by this time. Now let's go into the chapter. What will be you be able to learn when you once finish this chapter? You will be able to describe what are the inputs, input services, and capital goods and other relevant terms in relation to ITC. Means you will be able to understand certain definitions, because in ITC provisions you will come across a certain terminology like inputs, input services, capital goods, etc., etc., etc. All those things, first of all, we should know the definition. Next comes, you will be able to understand what are the conditions subject to which ITC can be availed. What is the time limit within which ITC is to be availed? What are the restrictions that have been placed in availing the ITC? What is the procedure to avail the ITC? Those things you will be learning in this chapter. You will also learn what are blocked credits. Means what are the items on which the input tax credit is not available. That also you will be learning. And also, sometimes you will not be able to claim full input tax credit. Only proportionate input tax credit you will have to take. For example, there are common inputs. Those common inputs are utilized for the purpose of both taxable as well as exempted output. Then you need to take only proportionate input credit. Now, how to compute that proportionate input tax credit? That we will understand. And also, you will also understand as to how the provisions of ITC should be applied for availing the credit, and also how to determine the output tax liability when the input tax credit is available, and the balance amount of cash, what balance amount of cash is to be paid. That also you will understand by the end of this chapter. So the chapter overview is, you will learn certain definitions, and also you will learn as to what are the conditions and what is the eligibility to take input tax credit, how to apportion the input tax credit, what do you mean by blocked credits, 17 subsection 5, blocked credits. You won't be allowed as deduction. Hello? Chapandi. నేను 5 o'clock phone చేస్తాను సార్ మీకు. Blocked credits under section 17 subsection 5. You will learn. Means those credit is not available for you. Sometimes in certain special circumstances, you will avail the credit. What are those special circumstances under which you will be availing the credit? Now, how the input tax credit is to be utilized? How the input tax credit is to be utilized? That also we will be learning. First of all, we will understand the input tax credit. Previously, in chapter number 1, we have understood what is the need for introduction of GST. The erstwhile indirect tax regime, there used to be VAT for intrastate sale. There used to be CST for interstate sale. There used to be excise duty on manufacture. There used to be service tax levied on services. So there are a number of services, or there are number of taxes which were levied. Some of these taxes were levied by the central government, some of these taxes were levied by the state government. Now, we understood a concept called as cascading effect. What do you mean by cascading effect? Cascading effect means tax on tax. Let us say I have manufactured all these things I have explained at length in detail in chapter number 1. But however, just to revise, I am again telling you this. Let us say a person manufactured a good. Then what used to happen? Excise duty was levied. When the good is sold within the state, VAT is levied. Now, on what value VAT is levied? The manufacturing cost plus excise duty. On that VAT used to be levied. But it included profit element also. You are unable to see the screen because I have stopped sharing. Because I have stopped sharing the screen, you are unable to see the screen. So just listen to me, what I am saying. So, manufactured product sold within the state. Manufacturing cost plus profit plus excise duty. On that value, VAT is calculated. Thereby, VAT is levied on a excise duty. So it is a tax on tax. Tax on tax will lead to cascading effect. Okay. Now, what used to happen? Later on, in excise duty, a concept called mod VAT credit was introduced. Mod VAT credit was introduced in excise duty. Thereafter, what happened? Service tax came. And in service tax also, VAT system was introduced. But in 2004, the VAT of service tax and the VAT of excise duty were merged. But the VAT of a state is not available for set-off. So excise duty was not available for set-off from local sales tax. CST was not able to be set off against the local VAT. VAT is not available to be set off against the excise duty or service tax. Now, what are the reasons, etc., etc., etc.? I have already told you in chapter number 1. When we are learning, I have explained it in a detailed manner. So previously, under the S2A law, there used to be cascading effect. Tax on tax was levied. Point number 1. Point number 2, input tax credit was not allowed. Why? Because certain taxes were levied by the central government, certain taxes were levied by the state government. Certain taxes were levied by the central government, certain taxes were levied by the state government. Thereby, the input credit could not be given. But however, things have changed by the introduction of GST. GST is a multi-point taxation. Means tax is levied at every point of sale. GST is a multi-point taxation. Tax was levied at every point of sale. However, the tax paid at the preceding point will be allowed as a credit. You have to compute the tax on your output. But whatever tax has been paid at the preceding point will be allowed as input tax credit from the tax payable by you. Okay, I will tell you an example so that you will be able to understand. Already these examples were told to you previously, but again I will tell you. Let us say there is one Mr. A. He has purchased goods. He has purchased goods for value of 1 lakh. For value of 1 lakh, on which he paid CGST of 9,000 and SGST of 9,000. This is what he has done. Now what happened? He is selling it. He is selling it for 1,10,000. This fellow is a trader. This fellow is a trader. He purchased goods. At the time of purchase, the total amount spent by him is 1,18,000. Out of which 1 lakh is the price. 1 lakh is the price. Now, Abid, you should be able to view the screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Right. The price of the goods is 1 lakh, on which a GST is charged at 9% plus 9%. So he has paid totally 1,18,000. Now he is selling the goods for 1,10,000. Now what is the CGST payable? CGST payable is 9,900. SGST payable is 9,900. 9,900. So from his customer, how much he will collect? From his customer, he will collect 1,29,800. From his customer, he will collect 1,29,800. Now this is called as output tax. Output tax. Tax is levied on the selling price or value of supply. So now this fellow has to pay 9,900 CGST, 9,900 SGST, but he will get an input tax credit of tax paid by him at the time of his purchase. What is the tax paid by him at the time of his purchase? 9,000. 9,000. Now, how much balance cash he will pay? Balance cash, he will pay 900 and 900 to the government. So the liability of 9,900 is discharged by 9,000 utilizing the input tax, 900 by cash. So total 9,900 he has paid. 9,900. So the input tax credit means the tax paid on purchase. Tax paid on purchase. Now the output tax means output tax. Output tax means the tax payable by him on the value of supply. Value of supply. Value of his selling price is 1,10,000. On this 1,10,000, 9,900 plus 9,900 is to be paid. But already at the time of his purchase, he has already paid 9,000, 9,000. It will be allowed as a deduction. So balance amount will be paid in cash. So 9,900 CGST liability is discharged by utilizing the input tax of 9,000. And the balance amount of 900 is paid by way of a cash. So this is called as availment of input tax credit. Now before we go into this, so this introduction is what I told you previously, that previously the input tax credit was not available to the full extent Thereby, there used to be a cascading effect, but GST has brought about a change. So the input tax credit is dealt under Chapter 5 of the CGST Act, dealing from Section 16 to 21. Okay, and rule number 36 to 45. Okay, now in our intermediate level, we will be learning only Section 16, 17, and 18. 19, 20, 21 are not discussed at our interlevel because 19, 20, 21 are dealt at a final level. This relates to ITC of job work and input service distributor. Job work and input service distributor. It is dealt by Section 19, 20, 21, which will be discussed at your final level. So, what are the sections we are going to learn at the intermediate level? Only Section 16, 17, and 18, and also rule number 36 to 45. But all rules we are not going to learn because the job worker provisions and the input service distributor provisions are dealt at the final level. What are all the provisions relating to input tax credit in CGST Act are also made applicable to the IGST Act, while Section 20 of IGST Act. So separately, there are no provisions in the IGST Act which relate to the input tax credit. What are the provisions for input tax credit in the CGST Act will also apply to IGST Act. This is made applicable with section number 20 in the IGST Act. Once I have displayed that section 20 of IGST Act from the Taxman website, if you remember. Now, let us understand the scheme of ITC. Means we will have a bird's eye view. We will have a bird's eye view of what is ITC. Now, why ITC is important? ITC is important, or the input tax credit mechanism is designed to avoid cascading effect and to make the GST a destination-based tax. To make GST a destination-based tax. What do you mean by destination-based tax? The consuming state will get the tax portion. That is called destination-based tax. This also, if you remember, we have learned it in our chapter number 1. ITC is available on inputs, input services, and capital goods. ITC is available on inputs, means raw material, input services, and capital goods. I am a businessman. I purchase raw material to manufacture my finished product. Okay, that is input. When I buy that input, I should have paid tax. That tax will be available as a input credit for me. I took the services of an engineer. Engineer has charged me GST. I took the services of an engineer. That engineer has charged me GST. That is an input service for me. I purchased a machinery for my manufacturing. That machinery I will be using to manufacture my product. That is a capital good. For me, it is a capital good. For some other person who has supplied that capital good to me, for him it is a good. On supplying that good to me, he has charged GST. That GST I have paid. That now I will utilize it as my input credit. So, to carry on my business, I will be procuring inputs. I will be procuring input services. I will be procuring capital goods. On all these three, I have paid tax already. Now, from my output tax, whatever tax I have paid earlier will be claimed by me as input tax credit. Now, the input credit on inputs, input services, capital goods will be allowed only when these three items are used by me in the course of my business. And I should be a taxable person. I should be a taxable person. Whom do you mean by taxable person? We learned the definition already. Can anyone tell me who is a taxable person?
A person who pays the tax or who is liable to pay the tax.
Who is a taxable person? A person who is registered or liable to be registered under the provisions of this act is called as a taxable person. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You forgot the definition? Who is a taxable person? You have already forgotten. A person who is registered or liable to be registered is called a taxable person. Yes or no? So CGST Act definitions, section 2, taxable person. PQRST, taxable person. Taxable person means a person who is registered or liable to be registered under section 22 or section 24 of the Act. That fellow is called the taxable person. So, taxable person is eligible to take the input credit. But there is something called as blocked credit. Blocked credit, 17 subsection 5. Credits mentioned in 17 subsection 5 are not allowed as input tax credit, even though they are used for the purpose of business. That you should understand. Next, for what purpose ITC will be utilized? It is utilized to pay the output tax liability. What will happen because of this? Cascading effect will not be there. I already told you in the example, the output tax was 9,900. But at the preceding point, he has paid 9,000. Now 9,900 now payable. How it is paid? 9,000 by utilizing the input tax credit. 900 balance in cash will be paid. One-to-one correlation is not required between inputs and outputs. One-to-one correlation is not required between inputs and outputs. What do you mean by one-to-one correlation? I will tell you at a later point of time. Or let me explain now itself as to what do you mean by one-to-one relationship. One time I have purchased 100 units, on which input tax credit I got 1,50,000. Next time I bought 150 units, on which the input tax credit is 2,25,000. Now I sold 50 units. I sold 50 units from these 150 units. It is not necessary that I should use the input credit from this only. I can even use this amount also to discharge the liability of selling this 50 units. So that means that whatever input is there on one item, it is not necessary that it should be utilized on output of that item only. You can use the input of one item to discharge the liability of another item also. So one-to-one correlation is not necessary. IGST. Now IGST means for interstate supply, IGST is given, is to be paid. Now this IGST concept is useful for the purpose of destination based tax. Previously I told you that SGST utilized to pay the IGST is to be transferred by the state to the central government. IGST utilized for the payment of SGST should be transferred by the central government to that state government. This concept also we learned in one of our previous chapters. So this IGST will enable the movement of input tax credit from one state to another state. ITC can be used for payment of output tax. Previously, in the previous example, the output tax payable was 9,900. But what we have done, we have utilized the 9,000 paid at the preceding point to discharge this 9,900. Okay. Now, in that example, what happened is, input was taxable and output was also taxable. That fellow was a trader. What does a trader do? A trader will sell whatever he has bought. He will not transform the product. The same product what he bought, he will sell it. So he is called a trader. Now for that trader, at the time of his purchase, 9% plus 9% he paid. Output also 9% plus 9%. Okay. Now the output tax was 9,900. On the input he has paid 9,000. So balance 900. Now he will pay. Now this is called as input tax credit. Now why he was allowed to avail the input tax credit? Because output was taxable. Now I will tell you one example. I have purchased raw material. Tax paid on raw material is 5 lakh. Now this raw material was chargeable at 9% plus 9%. With this raw material, I am manufacturing. The output is taxable at a nil rate. Therefore, I do not have any output tax. When I have no output tax, output tax is nil. Therefore, the input tax credit availability is not there for this 5 lakhs. Why? Because though my raw material was subjected to tax, but when I manufacture that, it has transformed into another product having distinct character, name and use. I have purchased a steel sheet. Why? Why did I purchase a steel sheet? Why did I purchase a steel sheet? Are you listening? Anybody is there or not there? Because nobody. This is a question designed by me. So answer this question. Twenty-one of you have answered. Other four of you have not answered. Right. So I am happy at least 32 have answered. 3 have not answered. 3 have not answered. Okay, they might not have received the poll or poll might not be visible to them. There may be an issue or that person is not attentive. So 3 of you, okay. I am happy that at least 91% of you are listening and with me. Right. Why did I buy a steel sheet? Nobody wants to answer. I bought a steel sheet for manufacturing of glass. Steel glass, I want to manufacture. I want to manufacture steel utensils. Steel utensils I want to manufacture. I want to manufacture spoons. I want to manufacture forks. So I purchased a steel sheet. What is there? Now let us say glass means this drinking glass. Okay. So I have bought a steel sheet. The steel sheet is taxable at the rate of 28%. But glass or utensils taxable at nil rate. So the sheet what I have purchased the raw material is taxable and I paid GST on that. But the utensils what I have manufactured from that steel sheet is exempt. So I won't be able to utilize that input tax credit. That you should understand. Okay. Right. Next. Moving forward. The exception is zero rated supply. Now, what in the previous example I told you, input is chargeable, but my output is exempt or nil rated. Therefore, I have no output tax. No output tax. Output tax is nil. So minus ITC not available. But however, my input is chargeable, my output is zero rated. What do you mean by zero rated? I have exported, or I have given it to SEZ. Then my output is zero rated. Now, whether input tax credit is allowed or not, yes, allowed. Sir, when tax is nil, how can I claim the input tax credit? You will get a refund. You will get a refund. This is a sort of incentive for you exporting. Because you export, the country will receive valuable foreign currency, which is required to the government for the purposes of expending it on petrol, diesel, aviation turbine fuel, etc., etc., or to import life-saving drugs, etc., etc. Foreign exchange is required. So, if you are manufacturing exempted product, you won't get input credit. But if you are selling the zero-rated item, then it is available. You may say that if there is no output tax, what will you claim input credit? You will get the refund. You will get the refund. That you should understand. Suppose if you are making both taxable and exempted supplies, if you are making both taxable and exempted supplies, let us say I deal in two products. Product 1, product 2. For this, raw material 1, raw material 2 I use. For this, raw material 3, raw material 4 I use. Okay. Now, using this raw material, product 1 is manufactured, raw material 1 is taxable, raw material 2 is taxable. I paid the input tax credit on, I paid the tax on raw material 1 and 2. But product 1 is exempt. Now, this ITC is not available. The product 2 is taxable. Now, tax paid on raw material 3 and raw material 4 available. So, if you are dealing with both taxable and non-taxable item, input credit on taxable item is available. Input credit on exempted item is not available. We will develop further. Let us say raw material is same, but I am manufacturing two products. Raw material is same, steel sheet. With that, I manufacture utensils and I manufacture forks and spoons. Utensils exempt. Forks and spoons are taxable. Now, the GST on raw material is available proportionately. So the entire input credit is not available. Only proportionate amount is available. That you should understand. Only proportionate input tax credit is available. Okay. So input taxable, output taxable, input tax credit available. Input taxable, output exempt, not available. Input taxable, output zero rated, available refund. You are dealing with both taxable as well as exempted products. Inputs used for taxable products, ITC avail. Inputs used for exempted products, no ITC. You are using common inputs. You are using common inputs for taxable as well as exempted. Then you should take proportionate credit only. How to calculate the proportionate credit is given in the rules. Is given in the rules. So before we understand section 16, 17, 18 and the relevant rules, first of all, let us understand what are the examples, for or what are the definitions we need to learn. Agent already we learned in our previous chapters, so again I am not touching. Business we learned in our previous chapter, again I am not going to touch it, because whatever definitions are completed in the previous chapters we have discussed at length. Now if I again explain that, it will be of a great insult to you, so I am not doing that. Capital goods not dealt with. Capital goods we have to learn now. What do you mean by capital goods? Capital goods means goods. They are also goods. For example, I am a manufacturer. I purchased a machine. With that machine, I will be manufacturing the goods. Okay. And now in this situation, is it a raw material or a capital good for me? Tell me. I purchased a machinery. With that machinery, I will be utilizing that machinery in my manufacturing process. Is it a capital good for me? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, I am a dealer of machinery. My business is to sell machinery. Now tell me, is the machinery a good or a capital good for me?
Good.
Good, sir.
Good, sir.
Good, very good. If I am a manufacturer, I purchased a machinery, tell me the entry. I am a manufacturer, I purchased a machinery for 1 lakh. Tell me the entry.
Machinery to cash.
What is that?
Machinery to cash or bank.
Very good. Machinery to cash or bank. Now by this entry, what happened? What happened to machinery by this entry?
Capitalized.
Capitalized. So capital goods means the value which is capitalized in the books of account of the person claiming the ITC, which are used to be intended to be used in the course or furtherance of business. What did I tell you all the time? Why did I purchase my machinery? I purchased the machinery to manufacture goods. So I am using that in my business. I did not hold it for resale. The entry which I have recorded in my books of accounts is machinery account data to bank account. I took the machinery to the fixed assets table in the balance sheet. I capitalize. So capital goods means nothing but that item which you will capitalize in your books of accounts. You procure that for the purpose of your business, not for the purpose of resale. It is capital good. That's all. Simple. What do you mean by conveyance? Conveyance includes a vessel, aircraft, vehicle. What do you mean by exempt supply? I don't tell you again because already we dealt with nil rate, exempt, non-taxable. All these three are exempt supplies. Now, what do you mean by input? Goods other than capital goods intended to be used by the supplier in the course or furtherance of business. Capital goods means what you have capitalized in your books and used for business. What are inputs? Nothing but raw material. Inputs are nothing but raw material. Means other than capital goods. You are going to use in your business for resale. Okay. Next comes input services. Services used or intended to be used by a supplier in the course or furtherance of business. Input service means any service used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of business. What is this? What is this? What is that? What is this?
Telephone.
Very good. It is a telephone. What is there? You can answer anything. Am I going to hang you if you tell me wrong? Am I going to hit you? Am I going to put up a Nirbhaya case on you? No, I can't do anything. We are meeting virtually. I can't see you. I don't know your name. You always see me. You know my name. I don't even know your name. I don't even see you because you don't even switch on your cam. I don't know where you reside. I don't know what you are. I don't know whom you are. What is there? If I ask anything, you kindly reply. What is there? I have shown you this. Am I going to hit you with this one? No, I can't hit you. Whatever I ask you, it is only related to subject and only I ask you so that I will be able to convey the subject to you in a better manner. That's all. Apart from that, I am not going to test you. I am not going to award you marks. I am not going to give you any cash prizes also. Okay. Whatever examples I use or whatever I ask you are intended merely for the purpose of making you the subject more clear. That's all. So what I have shown you is a telephone. Very good. Why did I take a telephone connection and place it on my desk for fun or for decoration? Why did I take a telephone?
To communicate.
To communicate in the course of my profession. I want to ring up somebody, ask him to pay advance tax. I will ring up somebody, "Arey fellow, you send your books, the audit deadline is approaching fast. I need to conduct your audit and file the tax audit report. Arey fellow, you bring your books, I need to conduct the company audit, I need to upload in the MCA portal, all these things I have to communicate." So input service means any service, telephone service. Telephone service. Telephone is a service. The telephone department, with the help of this instrument, is facilitating me to communicate with the other person. It is a service. I pay telephone bill 450 rupees every month for that landline. So input service means services used or intended to be used. Supplier, I am the supplier. In the course or furtherance of business. The same type of phone I have at my home also. Even though myself, my wife, my mother, my children, my son, my daughter, everyone have an iPhone, everyone have a connection. But still I have a landline, which was taken some decades back. Still I maintain that. Now tell me, is it an input service, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. No. Why?
It is not in the course of potential.
Sorry? It is not an input service. Why?
It is not in the furtherance of business.
It is not in the course or furtherance of business. My office, definitely yes. From my office, I will be communicating only to my clients. From my home, I may be communicating to my relatives. Okay. Of course, if I use that telephone even to communicate with the clients from my home also, then it may be treated as a partly used for business, partly used for personal purpose. Then the availability of input credit will also change. Only proportionate amount I have to take. So input service means service utilized in the course or furtherance of business. What do you mean by input tax? What do you mean by input tax? I will tell you the simple logic. What do you mean by input tax? Input tax means tax paid at a preceding point. Tax paid at a preceding point. So input tax in relation to a registered person only means a registered person alone will get input tax. Central tax, state tax, IGST, UTGST charged on the supply of goods or services are both made to him. I am the registered person. Somebody supplied it to me. I am the registered person. Somebody supplied to me. Telephone department supplied a service to me. Okay. I am a manufacturer. I procured raw material. Raw material was supplied by someone else to me. I purchased a machinery. That machinery was supplied by someone else to me. So, input tax in relation to registered person means CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST charged on supplies supplied to him and includes IGST on import of goods. The tax payable under provisions of subsection 3, 4 of section 9. What is that? Someone answer me.
Reverse charge.
Very good. Reverse charge. Under CGST. 5 subsection 3 or 4 of the IGST. Reverse charge under IGST. The tax payable on 3 or 4 of SGST. UTGST reverse charge, but does not include composition levy. Composition levy section 10, we understood. One of the feature is this person cannot pass on the input tax credit. Because of composition levy, the chain will break. That is input tax. What do you mean by input tax credit? Means credit of input tax is input tax credit. What do you mean by inward supply? Inward supply in relation to a person shall mean receipt of goods or service or both, whereby purchase or acquisition or any other means with or without consideration. What is inward supply? Inward supply, outward supply. I purchased goods. I purchased goods. Is it an inward supply or outward supply to me?
Inward.
Inward supply.
Inward supply, very good. I sold goods. I sold goods. Is it inward supply or outward supply?
Outward supply.
Outward supply.
Very good. As simple as that. Motor vehicle will have the same meaning assigned to it in Motor Vehicle Act. Will have the same meaning as assigned to it in the Motor Vehicle Act. That will be somewhat a technical answer. All of you will understand what do you mean by motor vehicle. I need not explain to you. Tell me examples of motor vehicles.
Bike or
Bike, scooter, car, auto, van, jeep, etc.
Bus.
Sorry?
Bus, sir.
Bus, lorry, all of them are motor vehicles. That you can understand. Non-resident taxable person. Whom do you mean by non-resident taxable person? Who occasionally undertakes transactions involving supply of goods or services or both, whether as a principal or agent or any other capacity, but who has no fixed place of business or residence in India. That fellow is called a non-resident taxable person who occasionally undertakes transactions involving supply of goods or services or both, whether as a principal or agent or in any other capacity, but he do not have a place of business in India. He has no address in India. He don't have a shop in India, but still he will supply goods in India. Okay, that is non-resident taxable person. Whom be a principal? Principal means on whose behalf the agent to do business. Principal means on whose behalf agent carry on the business is called the principal. What do you mean by a quarter? What do you mean by quarter? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Jan to March, April to June, July to September, October to December. Recipient. Recipient already we have learned in previous chapters. Supplier we have learned. Taxable serve. This also we learned. Supply of goods or services which is leviable to tax. What do you mean by works contract? Contract for building, construction, fabrication, completion, erection, installation, fitting out, improvement, modification, repair, maintenance, renovation, alteration, commissioning of immovable property, wherein transfer of property in goods, whether as goods or in some other form, is involved in the execution of such a contract. That is called as works contract. Contract for building, construction, fabrication, completion, erection, installation, blah, 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 blah. Of, most important thing is, of any immovable property, wherein transfer of property in goods is involved. Let us say, the state government of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are National Highway Authority of India. One fine morning called me, NRK, you lay a road from Vijayawada to Hyderabad. They called me, what is there? I am an expert in laying roads. So NHAI people simply call me, NRK, you lay a road from Hyderabad to or Vijayawada to Hyderabad. 280 kilometers. You lay a road, what is there? You lay 10 lane road. The minimum speed is 150 kilometers per hour. If someone enters this road, they should go with 150 kilometers per hour minimum. Okay, so that type of road they want me to lay, and I told yes, I will do what is there. In the meantime, evening I have some leisure time. In that time, I will complete that road. Don't worry, I will do that. I promised them. This is nothing but a works contract. This is nothing but a works contract. When I lay the road, this road, is it movable property or immovable property?
Immovable property.
Immovable property. That is the most important thing. Works contract means building, construction, fabrication, completion, blah, 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 of any immovable property. That road becomes immovable, but it involves transfer of property in goods. It involves a transfer of property in goods, yes or no? Yes, sir. To lay the road, what do I require? I may require tar. I may require what you call that chips. I may require what you call some fuel to ignite the tar or to make the tar. I may require cement. I may require sand. I may require iron. All these things I brought. I utilized them for laying the road, but the road became involved. That is works contract. Jagan sir called me. NRK, those Telangana people have demolished the existing secretariat and they are building the new secretariat. Why can't Andhra Pradesh also have a new secretariat? You do one thing, you demolish some 10 or 15 buildings anywhere, then you construct a new secretariat for Andhra Pradesh, which should be a state of technology, state of the art technology you have to use. From that secretary, we should be able to, on that secretary, helicopter should be able to land. From that secretary, you should be able to launch rockets also into this space. So you build such a secretariat. He told me, what is there? What is there? I will build it. I told him. And some 1,000 crores contract value. Okay. Now I started constructing. What are all I require to construct that building? I require bricks. I require sand. I require cement. I require iron. I require electricity wires. I require electricity switches. I require wash basins. I require tiles. I require marble. All those goods I have procured, utilized in the construction of the building. This building became immovable property. The cement, the sand, the brick are all goods before I constructed this building. But all of these became immovable property once the construction is completed. Now this is called as works contract. This is called as works contract. Okay, that is the definition of works contract. What do you mean by zero rated supply? What do you mean by zero rated supply? You have learned taxable supply, you have learned exempted supply, but what is the zero rated supply? The tax is levied at 0%. Is this taxable or exempted? This is taxable, but taxable at zero rate. What is the difference between exempted or what is the similarity between exempted and taxable? In taxable, you need to pay tax. In exempted, you need not pay tax. What is the difference between what is the similarity between, what is the difference between taxable and exempted? In taxable, you need to pay tax. In exempted, you need not pay tax. What is the similarity between an exempt and zero rate? What is the similarity between an exempt and zero rate? Similarity is no tax. What is the similarity between the exempt and zero rated? Similarity is in both the cases you need not pay the tax. But what is the difference? The difference is ITC available. ITC not available. Now, if it is zero rated, there is no output tax. If you take ITC, what you will do? I will take the refund. I will take the refund. Okay? That you should understand. I will take the refund. Okay. That is one thing what we need to understand as far as this is concerned. So what are zero rated? Export is zero rated. Supply to sales is zero rated. Export is zero rated. Supply to sales is zero rated. Now these are the definitions. These are the definitions. Now we will go into the statutory provisions. My dear friends, I told you that from today onwards, for 1 week, I will be taking extended sessions up to 5 p.m. Because last week we had some truncated classes, so which I need to compensate. I took leave on 1 day also, and for 3 days, for 3 or 4 days, we had some truncated classes. So what I need to do is I need to compensate those. So because of which I will be taking 1.5 hour class for this week. Whether they continue to the same in the next weeks, coming weeks also, we will take a call after once we complete this week. Now, we need to go into the statutory provisions. As usual, first we will go through the statutory provision, then we will go into the analysis part. First we will go into the someone is asking, is zero rate not nil rate? Yes, zero rate is different, nil rate is different. Nil rate is exempt. Zero rate is taxable. but taxable at 0%. What is the similarity between nil rate, exempt rate, and zero rate? In all of them, you need not pay tax. But what is the difference? For nil rate and exempted, you won't get ITC. But for zero rated, you will get ITC. That you should understand. My dear friends, we need to go into this statutory part first. Before going into the statutory part, let us check if we have any amendments. Yes, we have amendments as far as section 16 subsection 4 is concerned. 16.4 we have an amendment. You keep track of that. Whenever we come to 16.4, you kindly remind me that we have an amendment. And a statutory update. Statutory update. Now, where is this statutory update available? It is available in your ICAI website. From there, you have to download the statutory update applicable for November or December 2021 examination. Okay. Now, this is the statutory update. Paper 4B, indirect taxes. Statutory update for November 2021 examination. Because your study material was updated up to 31st of
October.
You may not have access to some of the features. Okay, no problem. What is there? If he does not give access to some of the features, we very well know as to how to get it. Okay, we'll do one thing. Right. You can download this statutory update from your ICAI website. Right. Now, we have an update with respect to input tax credit. With respect to input tax credit. That is, rule number 36.4 was amended. And we have a new rule number 86B. So altogether, we have an amendment in 16 subsection 4. We have an amendment in rule number 36 subsection 4. Rule number 36 subrule 4. We have a new rule number 86B. So these three we need to learn in this chapter. These three are amendments. These three are amendments. This was already given in your study material because it was introduced prior to 31st October 2020, but not made applicable till the preparation of the study material. These two came after 31st October, but before 30th April 21 they came. So these are the amendments which we need to understand in this chapter. Okay, right. So what is subsection 4? Such invoice or invoice relating to such. This wording is introduced. But for that everything is same. This wording is introduced. What is that? Invoice relating to such debit note pertains or furnishing of the relevant annual return whichever is earlier. Okay, right. So we'll go to the statutory provisions. We'll go into the statutory provisions. We'll quickly go through the statutory provision. When an analysis part comes, we will discuss in detail. Every registered person, so only registered person can take the input tax credit, shall, subject to conditions and restrictions. So, as may be prescribed. Prescribed where you will get rules. In the manner specified in section 49, they can take input tax credit on supply of goods or services or both supplied to him, used in the course of furtherance of business, and shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger. Who can take input tax credit? Registered person. Is it available freely? No. You have conditions, you have restrictions. The conditions and restrictions are given in rules. You can take that input tax credit as given in the section 49. Conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed and in the manner. Conditions or restrictions are prescribed rules. How to take the input credit? In the manner specified in section 49. He will be entitled to input tax credit. We will go to section 49 once. We will go to section 49. This is relating to payment of tax. So to pay the output tax, you can utilize the input tax credit. So the manner is given in section 49. The manner is given in section 49. IGST first be utilized towards payment of IGST. And if remaining be utilized towards payment of central tax, state tax or UTGST. Central tax first used for central tax. State tax first used for state tax. So this is the manner laid down in section 49 to avail the input tax credit. On what items you can take input tax credit? On those items which are used in course or furtherance of the business. That input tax credit is to be credited to your electronic credit ledger. No registered person will be eligible to input tax credit unless he has a tax invoice with him or a debit note or any other document evidencing the payment of tax. He should have received the goods. He should have received the goods. He should have received the goods. He should have లేకపోతే పంచి ఇవాళకి 7:30కి వచ్చారు. He should have received the goods. He should have invoice. He should have received the goods. Okay. It is deemed that he has received the goods in some cases. What are those cases? What are those cases? Where the goods are delivered by the supplier to a recipient or any other person on direction of such person, whether acting as an agent or otherwise, before or during movement of goods, either by way of transfer of documents or title goods or otherwise. Okay, I will tell you the implication. I will tell you an example for this. Where the services are provided by the supplier to any person on the direction of and on account of such registered person. For this also I will tell you an example. Subject to the provisions of section 41, tax charged in respect of such supply have been actually paid to the government either in cash or through utilization of the input tax credit admissible in respect of the said supply. Subject to the provisions of section 41. What is section 41? Claim of input tax credit and provisional acceptance thereof. Every registered person shall, subject to such conditions and restrictions, be entitled to take credit of eligible input tax as self-assessed in his return, and such amount shall be credited on provisional basis to his electronic credit ledger. Shall be utilized for payment of self-assessed output tax. So, subject to the provisions of section 41, tax charged in respect of such supply should actually have been paid to the government. And he has furnished the return under section 39. 4 conditions are to be satisfied. He should have the invoice. Goods should have reached him. Tax should have been paid. Return should have been furnished. These 4 conditions are to be satisfied for you to take the input credit. Sometimes what will happen is the goods are received in lots. Invoice is same. I ordered for 10,000 units of a raw material. For all the 10,000 units, a single invoice is raised. But the 10,000 units can't be loaded into a single container. The 10,000 units will be loaded into 10 goods carriages. One goods carriage is loaded, it is sent. Another goods carriage is loaded, it is sent. But the invoice is only one invoice. Invoice is only one invoice. Okay. Now, I will be able to take the input credit only when all the goods carriages have reached my premises. The last goods carriage, whenever it reaches me, I will be able to take credit at that point of time. where the recipient fails to pay the supplier of goods or services or both, the amount towards value of supply along with the tax payable thereon within a period of 180 days from the date of invoice, an amount equal to the input tax credit availed shall be added to his output tax liability along with interest. I purchased goods on 1st of August 2021, took ITC. The invoice date is 1st of August 2021. Now from here, within 6 months, I should pay the invoice value. Within 6 months, I should pay the invoice value along with the tax. The price is 1 lakh. GST is 18,000. The invoice price is 1,18,000. Now this is invoice value. I should pay the money within 180 days from the date of invoice. If I don't pay the invoice amount within 180 days, I should reverse the ITC, whatever I have taken. Means I should add it to the output tax liability. And I should also pay interest. Provided the recipient shall be entitled to avail the credit of input towards the value of goods along with tax payable thereon. If I have paid after 180 days, first on 181st day I should reverse. On 230th day, I paid the invoice amount. Then I can retake the input credit. Okay. You should have invoice. Goods should have been received by you. Tax should have been paid. Return should have been filed under section 39. These 4 conditions are to be satisfied. I should pay the invoice value along with the tax within a period of 180 days from the date of invoice. If I have not done so, on 181st day, I should add the input tax credit taken by me to my output tax liability. After some time, I have paid the money. Then I can retake the input credit. Don't worry, we will go to the analysis part and understand it with examples. Registered person has claimed depreciation on the tax component of the costs. The input credit shall not be availed. You can only get one thing. Either you can get the input tax credit or you can claim the depreciation. Let us say price of the machinery is 1 lakh. 18,000 is GST. 1,18,000 is the invoice value. If you take 18,000 input credit, you can claim depreciation on only 1 lakh. You will get only one. Either you get depreciation or you will get input credit. So if on 18,000, if you have claimed input tax credit, depreciation you will get only on 1 lakh. You won't get depreciation on 18,000. So 18,000, either you take it as input credit. If you don't take it as input credit on 18,000, you can claim depreciation. But on 18,000, both depreciation as well as input credit both are not available. That you should understand. A registered person shall not be entitled to take ITC in respect of invoice or debit note for supply of goods or services or both after the due date of furnishing of the return under section 139 for the month of September following the end of the financial year to which such invoice or invoice relating to such debit note. Invoice relating to such debit note. Here it is already changed. This is an amendment. This is an amendment. 4. 16 subsection 4. It is already given here. Or furnishing of the annual return, whichever is earlier. There is a time limit to claim ITC. There is a time limit to claim ITC. That time limit is given in section 16 subsection 4. Okay. Now, input tax credit CGST rules. From this, we will continue tomorrow. Since we have exceeded our time of 5 o'clock, we will continue tomorrow. Okay.